Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Yesterday, Father's Day, it's actually kind of a nice day weather-wise. We had rain quite a bit. Rained off and on most of the day, which was desperately needed. I mean, we weren't into like any kind of critical drought stage around here, but we had gotten kind of dry, and I was getting to that point that I was going to have to start, watering the garden, and well, it rained quite a bit, at least a good steady rain throughout the day, and it cooled it off, and it made it kind of nice, and it's a little cool this morning, so felt pretty good, but it's going to be warming back up again into the normal summertime temperatures. Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, has gone to China, met with Xi Jinping, and apparently made a statement this morning, a little speech over there in China. And there seems to be some conflicting information coming from this man. Not that that's surprising with the current administration in Washington, because it does seem like they're just contradicting themselves or just flat out telling lies. Well, pretty much every word that comes out of their mouth. I mean, to not go down too far down a rabbit trail, there's not an American, especially an adult American in existence, that has never or not realized that politicians lie. They don't always tell the truth, or they twist things. They twist it and they make it kind of fit their narrative. But man, have we ever seen an administration in American history that has blatantly lied as much as this one? It's over the top. Anyways, back to the original point. So Anthony Blinken goes to China, meets with Xi Jinping, and he's trying to, and I'm just giving you what the official narrative, what the official story is, okay? Says he's trying to calm things down between us and China, to kind of bring down the hostilities between us and China, that America can't really disconnect from China, or vice versa, that it would be very detrimental to both nations and all this kind of stuff. And then he gives a little speech this morning, a little press conference, and he says that America does not support Taiwan independence. They support a China One policy. They do not support Taiwan independence. And then he went on to say that we did support Taiwan's right to defend itself, which is kind of strange. It would be like if Louisiana was saying that they're going to secede from the Union and become their own government, their own state, and we said, well, we don't support that. We support Louisiana being part of the United States, but we support Louisiana being able to defend itself against the United States. It's very contradictory. I mean, who else is Taiwan going to defend itself from? And if they're part of China, wouldn't it be China defending Taiwan? It makes no sense. It makes me kind of wonder, are we seeing, well, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things at play here, and it's usually never what's just at the surface. But it makes me kind of wonder, are we seeing them trying to stall China, China's not stupid, okay? They may be, and their government and the CCP may be a lot of things, but they're not stupid. So do they really think that China would buy this to kind of cause China to back down, to buy the U.S. government and the U.S. military more time to prepare? Because all reports are indicating that the U.S. military is not prepared really to go against China in a full-scale war. So that could be a possibility. It also could be that what a lot of us have suspected for a long time is that all of this seemingly hostilities between the United States and China is all just a big show, and that somehow, some way in the end, it's just going to be America capitulating to China, and China will just win. That many of us have believed, or at least thought, suspected, that Biden is just kind of a paid, party in this by China, that he's maybe possibly bought and owned by them. I mean, it appears that he has been by Ukraine with the money that seems to be sent his way, but very possibly China also. So it's very hard to sit here and armchair quarterback from a distance, not knowing all the details about what is actually happening. But it does seem that on the surface at least, and I try to preface that, on the surface at least, it looks like that maybe we're trying to stall for time because we have what has appeared to be over the last few days, some type of military training exercise that may seem to be a little bit outside the norm. I can't 100% say that, but it does appear that all of this military movement, there's just more and more videos all the time over the last few days of trains filled with equipment and caravans and all this kind of stuff. Some of it could be totally normal, totally within the status quo, and others it does seem that it's possible that military equipment is being moved into certain locations in preparations of something or for the training of something that's kind of outside the norm. So you've got that. Then you've got all these cyber attacks. A lot of businesses, a lot of governments have been hit over the last week with cyber attacks. And the speculation is that it's just begun, that was just kind of a beta test. It just kind of to kind of see how far they can go with the cyber attacks, and that probably a much bigger one is on its way. So when you put all of that together, along with a few other things, especially the fact that somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 nations now have indicated that they either want to be part of BRICS or that they are wanting to at least work with BRICS, which is China's big, love child that they created. That is basically going to at some point compete with the United States dollar and their currency as the global reserve currency. And so 80 countries, that's like almost half of the world. And so we're seeing things really line up that I think that we're watching stuff happen. If you go back to World War II, most of you know this, but maybe not everyone. Just before World War II, we had Japanese and American officials meeting and working out this peaceful plan so that we didn't go to war, and just days later, the Pearl Harbor happened. Now, I'm not making some insinuation that I think because of this Blinken thing that we're just a few days away from some type of attack, but I think that we're certainly getting closer to that. We're certainly going down that path. Because this whole thing that America supports a China one policy and we don't support Taiwan independence is actually kind of ridiculous, because at the same time we're working out specific trade deals. We're sending our ships to go around Taiwan. I mean, I don't have to tell you all of it. We're actually selling them arms and all this kind of stuff and treating them as if they were their own nation. And so we're contradicting ourselves, and China knows that. The rest of the world knows that. The rest of the world knows that we're playing a game here. And at what point does this game go from just some type of Cold War strategy game to where it's an actual conventional kinetic engagement? And that's a question that I can't answer. It does appear that it's closer than further away. And so as all this military movement, as the cyber attacks, as just the things going on between China and the United States and Taiwan, and then you've got to include Russia, and might as well include North Korea and Iran, and all of them. We're watching things intensify, I believe. I don't believe we're watching things kind of calm down. We're seeing a gradual intensification of relationships between us and the other great power in this world. There is no one else in the world that could really stand up against China at this point. And I'm not saying that China is all powerful, but I think they would give us a run for our money for certain, and could potentially. They may be able to outproduce us. We may have better equipment and better technology, but they could certainly give us a run for our money and outproducing us. And one thing to always remember with China is that they're a very closed-off society. And even over the past few years, our own intelligence agencies have said it's been difficult for them to penetrate that wall to really see what China is really doing. And so a lot of our information that we have just isn't correct. We just, we don't know if it's correct. We don't know exactly what's going on with China. We don't know exactly what level of technology they have or the amount of military equipment they have. We only know really what they tell us, which is what they want us to know. And we're watching everything kind of intensify. I think that this meeting over there with the Secretary of State is just a show. It's just a show like most everything else with this administration is. They know that this administration knows that we're not ready. They know that the military recruitment is extremely at a low number. They know that we don't have the munitions to handle this because we've sent too much overseas to Ukraine. And it's either going to be some other type of war that doesn't use all the HIMARS and the Patriots and stuff because we've sent them off to Ukraine, or it's going to be us somehow working out some deal to capitulate, to keep from having a war. And then that could be just as detrimental to this country as anything. I think it just indicates that we're getting that close. We're getting closer. And at some point we need to start realizing, Americans, I know many of you do, but Americans need to start realizing that the time that we could get that of us getting involved with China with some type of war is coming near, and we should get ready for that. We should start kind of wrapping our heads around that and making the preparations in our lives that's necessary, that we feel would be necessary to protect us during some type of global war such as that, because it's going to be devastating. It's going to affect the supply chain in ways that we can't ever imagine. I mean, way, way, way more than World War II. I mean, in World War II, Germany wasn't really a big trade partner with us, and most of those areas in Europe. And America was maybe not completely self-sufficient in the 1930s and 1940s, but much more so, much more so than we are today. And so here we are heavily dependent upon the nation that is trying to defeat us militarily, or that wants to go to war with us. That's not setting us up for a good situation. Medicines already are in short supply. CDC, Pfizer, all these big pharmaceuticals are warning of pharmaceutical supplies being in short supply. And one of them is penicillin. Pfizer said they only have just a few months left of penicillin solution. They're going to run out. Syphilis drugs, cancer drugs are all in short supply. And a vast majority of our medications, both over-the-counter and prescriptions, come from China. And the ones that come from India, a lot of the ingredients to make those in India come from China. They have a stranglehold. China has been stockpiling massive amounts of commodities, steel and gold and oil and other types of fuels, even lumber and precious metals and rare earth minerals. They've been stockpiling these in massive amounts, almost like they're preparing for some type of global conflict where it would be a good idea and beneficial to have a good stockpile of things so they don't have to worry about the rest of the world shutting them off. I don't know. It's just I guess you could call it just a speculation, but I think that there is something to it. I think that we should be getting ready because the hostilities there are growing, and it seems almost at this point inevitable that we will face off against China in some way, or inevitable that this current government will somehow just hand us over to China through some type of treaty negotiation that would just about neuter us as a nation. You need to be getting your houses in order, folks. You need to be preparing mentally, physically, and spiritually. This stuff going on with China, it's very real and it's very serious, and it's big enough to really, really devastate us as a nation. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.